Welcome back to another Cutter Simpsons Unhinged. We are doing number 18 on this list, and hopefully you'll love it. The fact of the matter is that this one is big, but anyway, let's recap the ones I have already done. I talked about season 23, Lisa Goes Gaga. Season 19 is that night show about Homer and Marge's timeline. Season 24, Homer getting Bongo, and of course, losing Bongo and then not trusting Abe's or dogs. Season three's Homer at the Bat, where they beat the Cosby Show first run. Season 21, when they were in the Olympics in Canada's warmest city, Vancouver. Season 11, when Maud dies and how it made Ned into a different character and Homer in a sense. Season 15 is the 15th season of Homer trying to do a redemption song, but Ned just has to mess it up, saying that I'm better than him. Season 9's Principal and the Pauper. That's the big one when we all saw the Simpsons jump the shark and basically nothing comes out of it. Season 5's Homer and Apu. I just had to have an Apu episode, and Homer and Apu seem to be good. Season 7's Legend Lisa the Vegetarian, which was our 10th unhinged one, telling about Lisa turning into a vegetarian and basically all for Paul McCartney. Season 22's Love is a Many Strangled Thing, when the Simpsons try to prove that Bart deserves to get strangled and all that, and they just won't let it go. Season 31's Todd Wild High Fells. Forsaken Me, this is the one when Todd is kicked out of the Flanders house by Ned because he doesn't believe in God because, he took Maud away and tries to get Todd back, and Lisa becomes a bitch for some reason. Lisa gets an F1, season 35. This was a special one to see about how good Lisa is with an F1. The gay marriage one from season 16 and how, it changed things. Homer basically sold out his anti-gay views for money and how I was pissed off with the couch gag. Season 32's Diary Queen, in which Bart pursues to do better, but Lisa just has to ruin it for him, but Flanders tells Bart he's okay. We looked at the very special Family Guy Simpsons crossover from 2014. That was the one which we saw the shows happen and how maybe somehow Family Guy made the Simpsons redeem themselves for more than 10 years, pissing me off in a sense. And of course, last week we talked about Bart the Mother, about Bart raising eggs and, trying to do a redemption song and how Bart and Marge's relationship is. So today we're going to be taking a look at a twofer. Now it's a rare twofer. The reason why we're going to be doing a twofer today is because the rarity of one episode actually having a B plot actually become more sensical in the next episode, season A. So, you're confused as much as I am? Well, take a look. We're going to take a look at the Italian Bob from season 17 and how a previous episode, the last episode before that, actually made sense. Jerk Homer, Marge's worries, Bart's pranks, Lisa's causes, Maggie not talking a lot, Grandpa being senile, Patty and Selma boring Marge, Arnie Sif is a jerk, Chief Wiggum making things happen, Mr. Burns being a dick. You can never stop the Simpsons. Heaven knows they've been trying for years and they still come back for more. 37 seasons is a bit much, don't you think? It's a crazy Simpsons. Something happens. A do 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 do. This is not a clip show. Have no fear. I've got topics for years. Okay, if you're watching this, like you're watching this and not listening to this, you see a picture of Marge with a red hat by some other girl. Well, this was the premise of the last of the Red Hat Mamas. Basically, in this episode, in the A plot, Homer basically decides to ruin the Easter mayor's thing by trying to take eggs from other kids to help Maggie out. Marge then loses her friend group and basically yells at Homer, saying that she just can't get friends. After a few attempts Homer tries to make to get Marge a friend, Marge finds herself with a group of red hat uh, females, like the main character and, of course, Agnes Skinner and a lot of people. Marge finds truth in like hanging out with people, and soon it becomes a covert mission to steal a Fabergé egg from Mr. Burns because he reneged on money to a children's hospital so that he could make himself live 10 minutes longer. So Homer tries to help out and warn Marge about Mr. Burns' plan, but Marge manages to guilt Mr. Burns into dropping the charges. But thanks to Marge's beehive, she actually smuggles a Fabergé egg, and the woman says, "I love you, Marge. But to be fair, we should be friends." So basically, the one on the left basically has a feminine crush on Marge. Weird. So that's the way it goes. And of course, the B plot is what I'm talking about. So the B plot in this episode is Lisa wanting to study over in Italy. So she tries to get a tutor, and that's Milhouse. Thinking that Bart set Lisa up for failure, she's shocked that Milhouse could speak Italian quite well. Milhouse goes over the summer to his nana's in Italy and used to try to speak English to her, but she kept saying idiota and then smacking him with a tree branch. Mostly because a USGI left her with child, their uncle Bastardo. So Milhouse learned quickly to speak Italian and also learned quickly to wet his bed again, as he said. So Lisa and Milhouse go through Springfield's Italian district, and Lisa finds herself attracted to Milhouse, but then Milhouse just has to ruin it for himself by flirting with another girl, and Lisa blows her top at Milhouse. So that is that episode, but let's go with the main story. So here's leading into the Italian Bob. Of course, Sideshow Bob, why is he shocked to see the Simpsons with him? Well, here's the story. So anyway, Mr. Burns in his antiquated car breaks down in front of the Springfield Elementary 4th grade class who have to watch diversity tales, half made by the National Film Board of Canada, ha ha ha, national pride. But the fact of the matter is that they tease him on his car so much that he decides to get a Lamborghini Fasterosa and asks Homer to go to Italy to pick up the car for him. Of course, Homer groans because he has to take his family with him. But anyhow, they go to the Leonardo da Vinci airport, and of course, there's a lot of Da Vinci flying machines flying. And then Lisa has a Canadian flag on her backpack. Bart asks why. Lisa says that basically how Americans are, arrogant and all that, how Europeans think of Americans. She's going to pretend to be Canadian because Canadians are polite and all that. Bart then tells her that practically Homer may have blown her cover by packing Old Glory and waving it, saying shock and awe, shock and awe. Why would you do that, Homer? That's a jerk ass move. And, well, Lisa could have also said, I don't know. But of course, this is 2006. This is not 2026, where some sentiments are the same, unfortunately. So, anyhow, yeah, Europe has almost always had it out for America as is. So, as is, they go to the car factory and get Mr. Burns' car. However, Marge wants Homer to spend some time in Italy doing some sightseeing. And, and Homer says, do you want me to be reckless? Bart then even says, if you want him to be reckless, how about him getting some health insurance? And Homer can't help but choke Bart out and all that. But Bart finds a robotic arm with a car door and slams it on Homer's head, and they both collapse and all that. So they go sightseeing, but Homer thinks that something's cool, but he sees an Italian McDonald's as something big. Unfortunately, behind him is the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Lisa says, why don't you turn around to look at the Leaning Tower? Homer says, it's on my coffee cup. It's on my drink cup. Which, a lot of people basically want the experience of finding something and they don't find the beauty behind them. Whatever. So anyway, they drive through the Italian countryside. Unfortunately, a cheese truck destroyed them with several cheeses that Lisa pronounces great in her Italian knowledge that she had the previous episode. But unfortunately, Mortadella ruins the car. Homer says, we have cheese insurance. Lisa says, no, we don't. Mortadella that isn't covered. No! So anyway, they have to push their way to an old village and all that. And they find out the mayor is none other than Sideshow Bob. Bart then basically goes on a tirade saying, of all the places in the world, I have to bump into you. Sideshow Bob does explain that after attempting to kill Bart, in the same episode as Homer almost losing his life to Frank Grimes Jr., that he needed a fresh start. And then he tries to plunge his knife into a globe, but it lands on Bartovia and Orlando. Now, cut that out. So he randomly selects Sicily. Tuscany, excuse me. So he unfortunately pisses off the locals by over correcting people. Sheldon of Big Bang Theory, anyone? Anyhow, Bob is saved in a sense because his big feet crush grapes, and the Tuscany village actually has a great harvest. So, in congratulations, they give Bob the job to be mayor. So, Sideshow Bob is doing all that, and he actually has a family, a wife and a son Gino, who actually babbles in young kid language to try to kill Bart and all that. Although Sideshow Bob doesn't have the killing instinct anymore. So the simple fact is that he's gracious, but he tells the Simpsons, I'll fix your car, but don't tell anyone about my previous stuff. So they do so, and then they go out on the balcony. The Simpsons are welcome. Unfortunately, Homer makes some gestures. Of course, this is audio, so I can't, so you don't see me doing them on video. But Lisa tells him, Dad, don't act like Mussolini. Mussolini? I thought I was doing Donald Trump. Ah, burn! Anywho, so anyhow, that's what happens to begin with, and all that. So after the car is fixed, the Simpsons have a farewell party, and Lisa's offered wine, but Marge says no, she's just a child. But Bart says that the 2-year-old is a town drunk. So Lisa ends up drinking wine and then interrupting Sideshow Bob's speech on her and all that. Speech on the family. Of course, Lisa spills the guts and all that. And then when she stumbles backwards, she actually rips up his suit to reveal his prison uniform. Why the hell would you put your suit over top your prison uniform? Why didn't you just burn your prison uniform? Are you crazy, Sideshow Bob? I'm sorry, but that's the way I feel. However, then there's an Italian policeman going through his book of crimes and sees Snake and Mayor Quimby, and then Peter Griffin, Plismo, and Stan Smith of American Dad, plagiarismo, deep plagiarismo, and then Sideshow Bob as multiple homicido. So he loses his job as mayor and all that, and he decides to get revenge on the Simpsons by giving them a vendetta. Strangely enough, Marge looks it up in the dictionary. Vendetta is the same in English and Italian. So anyway, Homer has to try to get out of the way of Sideshow Bob, and worst of all, he forgets his main mission is to bring the car back to Burns and Smithers. So Homer can't think of an excuse, so he pulls up a crudely drawn picture of himself in the "We'll be right back." It actually fascinates Smithers for some fucked up reason. But as is, Homer ends up in deep trouble and all that. Well, Bob misses a chance to get Homer in them. However, Bob's wife and son catch up with them. Bob tries to plead his case, but Francesca basically says that because the Simpsons dishonored you, they dishonored us as a family. Of course, with no car and no money, the Simpsons find out that Krusty is performing at the Coliseum in Rome, Pagliacci, the sad clown, from Seinfeld episode Richie Bajajo. Of course, I can't pronounce it right. Anyway, he's put in as extras. Sadly, though, Bob, Francesca, and Gino find them out and try to flush them out. Lisa tries to tell everyone about Sideshow Bob's plan, but the villagers are entranced by the climax of Festi La Giuba. And then Sideshow Bob is ready to kill them, but fortunately Krusty's limo catches them and takes them away. Krusty needs him to smuggle stuff to America. The Twillikers are disappointed but plot revenge and all that. Some people actually were not happy, saying that, this was not a Sideshow Bob episode, that it lacked Bob's schemes and intentions to kill Bob. Bart, are you freaking kidding me? He was intending to kill Bart and the Simpson family. That reviewer, fully on you. So anyway, that's that Sideshow Bob thing. Now let's take a look at Sideshow Bob and his stuff in the past. And no, we're not going to talk about Italy anymore. Okay, so yeah, the next picture is Bob in his clown outfit in Italy. But the fact of the matter is that Sideshow Bob is no clown. He's a manipulative master eradicator, if you will. Sideshow Bob is introduced in season one as the sidekick to Krusty, who kind of has a hate for Krusty. I mean, after all, as a sidekick, he gets hurt so much. And in the episode Krusty gets busted, we find out that Krusty gets framed for robbery. Even though that Homer does finger Krusty as the culprit, Bart and Lisa still have their doubts. So using past experiences, they find out that Krusty was seen microwaving a burrito. But one problem, Krusty has a pacemaker. And then Krusty was seen reading a book, but he says he was illiterate, even though that he could be illiterate just to try to get out of crimes. Who knows? But anyway, yeah, so fortunately though, even though Sideshow Bob took over the Krusty program, Bart basically outs Sideshow Bob, and the police officers basically have to make the right move. Homer does apologize to Krusty for what he did, but Krusty says that Bart should get praised and all that. And then, of course, the next episode, if memory serves me right, is the one in which he's in prison, but he's now Selma's pen pal and engaged to Selma, if you will. So Sideshow Bob feels this way with Selma. Bart has his mistrust, after all, what he did to Krusty, and Selma basically dropping some hints to stuff. They do have a wedding and all that. Sideshow, Sideshow Bob feels like he's got the perfect person. Bart doesn't feel that way, and Chief Wiggum leaves his gun near the cake. Nevertheless, through a video that Selma and Bob give them, Bart realizes that Bob has a problem with a certain type of room, and then learning that Selma has no sense of smell and all that, and how she likes to smoke up after MacIver. He manages to get the Simpson family to stop Sideshow Bob from blowing up the room. Actually, it does blow up, but only because of the police's incompetence. But Sideshow Bob's back in jail. Sideshow Bob appears a few more times, and then Cape Fear happens. Was Cape Fear the third time? I can't remember. But anyway, Cape Fear, one of the most prominent episodes in Simpsons history. He comes up with some great moves. He ends up getting out of prison on a release thing and sends Bart threatening messages and all of that. The Simpsons go to witness relocation. Unfortunately, though, Sideshow Bob is underneath the car, and that's where the rape gag happens. Ooh, bog. Ooh, bog. Ooh, ah. Anywho, so anyway, Simpsons aside, um, this was a pretty impressive episode. So anyway, like I said, it was huge and all that. Of course, Bob is finagled by Bart because Bart makes him sing the entire score of the HMS Pinafore, and in time for Springfield cops to arrest him, even though that they weren't really about to. Then Sideshow Bob Roberts comes in when Sideshow Bob is freed thanks to Birch Barlow, who basically is the Simpsons version of Rush Limbaugh. He makes a good political campaign for mayor against Mayor Quimby, and ends up winning 100% to 1, which is 1% margin of error. But Sideshow Bob cheats by using dead people and even dead pets. Even Snowball won, and that pisses Lisa off. Sideshow Bob threatens to ruin The Simpsons for ruining his stuff by making a Madlock Expressway right in the middle of Homer's house and putting Bart down to kindergarten, but that fails because Bart wants to be in kindergarten. And it's sad when he learns that he will never find out who the dish ran away with. The spoon, Bart. Of course. However, Lisa does her own Woodward and Bernstein like thing Watergate thing on Sideshow Bob and exposes him by blaming Butch Barlow, and then basically Sideshow Bob saying, "I'm the mastermind right here." So unfortunately, though, gets put back in jail. And then there were a few other episodes. And then I guess the next episode on was the one in which he ends up finding out that Krusty is making a finale because of how those suits, Lindsay Nagel and some other guy, I guess Jeremy, ruining by getting them notes on air. So he decides to hypnotize Bart and make Bart give Bart explosives, blowing up Krusty and Bart. However, Krusty does make an apology about Sideshow Bob, and Sideshow Bob realizes he's made a mistake. Fortunately, though, Mr. Teeny throws the explosives towards those network suits and puts them in miraculous blobs. And then, of course, the episode when he's in jail, the Great Louse Detective, when Homer gets threatening letters and all that, they have to find out who pissed off Homer, who's going after Homer, and Sideshow Bob gets access to Bart, but Bart gets a sapper thing and uses it a little too much. Anyhow, we find out Frank Grimes Jr. was trying to kill Homer. It makes sense. Homer's enemy and all that. So, of course, perfect. But the fact of the matter is that it was major and all that, and that's where we left off. And then, of course, that's when Sideshow Bob goes to Italy. There's a few episodes he's in that I am like, yawn, I don't give a flying, you know what. So that's what we know about Sideshow Bob. And oh crap, I forgot the Sideshow Bob episode in which he's under work release, and thanks to his supposed brother Cecil, he actually ends up working on the Springfield Dam, but using it to flood the whole town and all that. And Bart and Lisa get him, and Cecil's the one who's the bad guy, not Sideshow Bob. Oh yeah, I forgot another one. Sideshow Bob at the air show trying to ruin TV because it ruined him, and of course, being chased down in that antiquated flying machine, which is funny how they couldn't even catch him. So yeah, the air show, and then the whole damn thing. But of course, Sideshow Bob gets arrested alongside Cecil. And then, of course, the Sideshow Bob trying to get revenge on Bart by faking his death and making Bart culpable, but it doesn't happen because of his big feet, and they're all in jail, all the family. Sideshow Bob is an interesting character, and we all love him deeply. So that's what I feel like it should happen. All right, so we talked about um in passing about Frank Grimes. That is actually going to be the next episode. So next week, May the 16th and 18th. May 16th, the next episode is going to be Homer's Enemy from season 8. We're going to season 8. We're going to season freaking 8. And all that. So, yeah, we're going to season 8 for our next episode, which will be big. It is Homer's Enemy. We will talk about that. And then on Monday, the 18th, which is a holiday in Canada, it is actually Victoria Day, so it's a holiday for Canada. So I will be doing a special weekday version, and that will be episode number 20. And we will be talking about Marge's psychosis, because it's Kill Gill, and it brings out the worst in Marge. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.